I pressed my mouth to a billionaire's lips to save his life. 30 minutes later, I was fired for inappropriate conduct. If that already makes your pulse jump, stay with me. Because what came next didn't just flip my world, it cracked open a system a lot of us pretend not to see. My name is Maya Williams, night janitor. South side of Chicago, single mom with a lunch bag in one hand and a bus schedule memorized better than my own birthday. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the executive boardroom that morning, but the glass doors were cracked, and I heard the tone people use when something is wrong. Chairs scraping that nervous laugh folks let out when they're scared, and one voice saying, the thing you never want to hear, he's not breathing. I pushed my cart forward, mop bucket sloshing, and there he was on the carpet that looks like a lake when the light hits it. Richard Kane, the billboard guy, the calm on TV guy, the billionaire CEO guy, lying on his side, lips turning a color no human lips should turn. Move, I said. No one moved. 7 men in suits worth more than my yearly rent just stood there like mannequins, cologne and fear hanging heavy. I know CPR, I said again, louder. A silver-haired man slid an arm across my chest like a velvet rope. You don't belong here. That line is a key people use to keep doors locked. I ducked under it. 2 fingers on Richard's neck. No pulse. Tilt the head, pinch the nose, seal the mouth. I gave a breath, then another. Someone hissed, "Is she kissing him?" Then something hard cracked across my shoulder. A cane, an umbrella, I don't care. Hot pain lit up my back and I kept counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 26, 27, 28. You filthy girl, a voice said near my ear. I leaned in, gave 2 more breaths and felt it. A twitch, then a cough like he'd been dragged up from the bottom of Lake Michigan. His chest rose. Air rushed back like a gift. I sat back shaking. Suddenly the suits remembered how to move. They surged forward, tripping over each other to look concerned now that it was safe. Paramedics rushed in efficient hands, taking over. Who started CPR? One asked. I did, I said, voice small but steady. That's when the silver-haired man stepped in like a judge reading a sentence. His badge said CFO. Name, he snapped. Maya Williams. Position, janitorial night shift. His lip curled. You put your mouth on Mr. Kane. He wasn't breathing, I said. He didn't care. Leave the building and do not return until contacted. Not a thank you, not a nod, just that. If it were you, what would you have done? Do you think that's fair? I took the service elevator, because that's the one people like me are expected to use. Rode a bus home with my shoulder on fire, watched the city smear into streaks on the window, and walked into our apartment the same way I always do. Quiet, steady, trying to keep my face calm so I don't scare my little girl. Daisy ran to me, barefoot teddy bear under her arm. Mama, you're late. I kissed her forehead, lied like mothers lie when we need to hold the world together. Just a crazy day at work. I didn't sleep. The radiator hissed. Sirens stitched the night. I traced the bruise on my back and tried to remind myself I'd done the right thing. But the next morning, the building's security guard didn't meet my eyes. You can't go in, he said. Why, I asked. Check with HR. I tried the service entrance. 10 minutes later, a supervisor handed me an envelope and wouldn't look at me. Inside, a last paycheck and a line that said, employment terminated immediately. Reason inappropriate conduct with executive staff. On the bus, my phone buzzed. A screenshot from a crew chat, a still from a security camera, my face inches from Richard's. His lips blue, someone captioning it like a joke, like something dirty. Another message. Nasty, another. Assault. That's how fast a life-saving breath turns into a scandal when the person breathing isn't supposed to be in the room. I told my mom it was a misunderstanding. I told Daisy we'd make pancakes and watch cartoons. That night, HR called, a woman's voice flat as a dial tone. Our internal review determined your behavior was inappropriate. We won't be pressing charges. Do not return to the premises. I hung up, stared at the wall, and said the word out loud until it lost shape. Inappropriate. For not letting a man die on a rug. Here's the part I didn't know then. Up above the city, in a penthouse, where the coffee brews itself, and the glass never smudges, Richard Kane sat on the edge of his bed with sweat on his neck, hearing a stranger's voice come through the black. Come on, breathe. Don't you dare stop. He couldn't find my name, but he couldn't shake my voice. He called security. I want the footage, he said. They tried to tell him it was handled. He said, send it. He watched himself fall. He watched 7 men do nothing. He watched me drop my mop and move like I had a fire at my back. He watched Edmund Ross, the silver-haired CFO, yank me by the shoulder and order me out like a thief. Shame landed where it belonged. He called his head of security. Find her. By the time he reached my building on the south side, Daisy had opened the door. You're the man from the pictures, she whispered. I'm looking for your mom, he said, voice softer than any commercial. I was on a thin mattress fever, bright in my cheeks because grief is heavy and hunger is heavier. The ambulance ride smelled like bleach and rushed voices. I woke up in a private hospital room with quiet lighting and an oxygen line tickling my nose. Daisy slept curled in a chair, my mom at the window with her hands folded tight. Richard sat beside me, looking smaller than a billboard. I saw everything he said. You saved my life. We punished you for it in my name. I'm sorry. You know what I said? Not much at first. Shock melts slow. But when my throat found words, they were simple. Don't just fix my body, I told him. Fix the part where I was invisible until you needed air. Help me be seen. Help my daughter grow up knowing right doesn't cost your whole life. He nodded like the weight finally belonged on his shoulders, not mine. He put a notarized statement on the blanket, clearing my name, calling my actions life-saving and appropriate. He told me Edmund was suspended pending review. Then he offered something I never expected to hear in a voice like his. Build it with me, he said. Not PR, not a fruit-in-the-break-room Band-Aid. Build a department that makes invisible people impossible to ignore. Design it. Lead it. I laughed, honest and tired. Sir, I clean floors. He shook his head. You kept a heartbeat going when a boardroom froze. That's leadership. I said yes. Not to a corner office, but to a fight I already knew by heart. My first day in the new annex felt like stepping into a room made of windows. Light everywhere, the river throwing silver across the floor space that didn't feel like a trap. Natalie Richards, chief of staff, shook my hand like she meant it. The security guard said, "Good morning, Ms. Williams," and it wasn't performative, it was human. I sat with night maintenance workers and cafeteria cooks and front desk angels who know every face by name. What would make this place humane, I asked. Not just efficient, I filled notebooks, transportation stipends, childcare vouchers, quiet rooms that weren't repurposed closets, actual counselors, not posters, and a complaint system that didn't die in a drawer. Then the machine woke up. A blog said I was a predator. A podcast host read from a sealed juvenile record where I stole cough syrup at 16 to help my mom breathe through a winter night. An old boyfriend, The internet dug up, sold a story for rent money and drama. Someone taped a note on my fridge in red ink. Quit. My hands shook reading it. I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. I asked for an all-staff meeting. No stagecraft, no fireworks. I stood in front of people who mop floors and people who sign checks, and I told the truth the same way I did on that boardroom carpet. Steady, without permission. Yes, I've been evicted, I said. Yes, I've had overdue bills. Yes, I stole medicine as a kid. None of that disqualifies me from building a system to keep people safe. It qualifies me to know exactly what needs fixing. In the back, a janitor named Eli clapped, then Carmen from payroll. Then it rolled through the room like a wave. Not a standing ovation, a decision to listen. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. Carmen knocked on my door with a USB and fear in her eyes. Miss Williams, she whispered, something's wrong. We opened spreadsheets, internal allocations tidy on the surface. She traced a line, then another. Wellness equipment to a warehouse that doesn't exist, consulting fees to a therapist with a license that expired 5 years ago. Invoices that look clean until you follow where they start and where they end. Money was being siphoned through our newborn program like a stolen vein. The edits were logged under Edmund Ross's old credentials. He was already out. Someone kept his digital signature alive to keep stealing. My blood ran cold, then hot. If we yelled too soon, the program people were finally starting to trust would take the fall. If we stayed quiet, thieves would keep eating out of our hands. I chose a third way. Carmen ran a quiet audit like a pianist who sees the whole song. Natalie pulled legal into a tight circle. I slept with the lights on for 2 nights. When we had a map instead of a rumor, we opened the auditorium. I stood under lights that used to feel like interrogation and said, "This is your house, so you deserve to know what's happening inside it." Numbers on the screen arrows show vendors a clean path to dirty pockets. A vice president crossed his arms. Why should we believe a janitor who was cleaning bathrooms a month ago? I didn't blink. Because I've walked every hallway in this company in shoes that squeak, I said. Because the people you pay consultants to ignore gave me the truth. Because I don't owe my silence to anyone. The room didn't erupt. It shifted. Up the side aisle, a man in a navy suit slipped out. Carmen gripped my sleeve. That's one of the signatories on the ghost invoices. Security moved fast. 10 minutes later, he was in a conference room with his hands shaking and his mouth running. He gave up names, dates, routing paths, the whole ugly net. By sundown, the FBI had a folder, badges were deactivated, access was cut, and a memo went out in Richard's name. If you target Maya Williams, you target the values of this company. Power finally chose a side out loud. The next morning, I stood in the main lobby, the place I used to enter through the back with a mop handle knocking my knee, and watched the revolving door spin. 2 officers stepped through with Edmund between them. His hair still perfect, his jaw tight, the kind of man who thinks consequences are for other people. Cameras popped. Employees leaned over the balcony rail. He walked past the exact spot where I dropped my mop, and someone hit me for giving a man air. He didn't look at me, but he saw me. I said nothing. Sometimes silence is the loudest thing we have. Do you call that justice or just a start? The board met that afternoon. We voted on the wellness and equity framework. Support counselors on every floor, anonymous channels outside HR, paid emergency time transportation stipends, childcare backups, and a rotating advisory board made of the folks who get ignored the most. Unanimous. A lawyer warned about dangerous precedent. I told him ignoring people is what gets us in danger. He didn't argue after that. The media tried to pull me into a whirlwind. Hero one day, hypocrite the next. I didn't feed it. We opened the Maya Fund instead. Childcare support for single parents in corporate jobs, mental health access, without the maze career re-entry for folks who stepped away to care for family. A young dad signed up and cried in a folding chair with his toddler on his knee. That meant more than 1,000 headlines. I'd love to tell you the internet stopped being cruel. It didn't. Every time we built something, somebody with a keyboard tried to knock it down. That's fine. Hammers can't hurt a house built with the right beams. My mom calls it stubborn. I call it breath control. When the noise gets loud, I remember the sound of a chest catching air, and I know what matters. There was a day, small to anyone else, huge to me, when I walked into an executive round table 15 minutes early because old habits die hard. They put my nameplate down, and for a second, I wanted to laugh and cry at once. I presented 10 slides without fluff, a quote on the last one. A system that does not listen cannot lead. A man in legal cleared his throat like he wanted to disagree, then closed his folder. Richard nodded once, not the nod of a billionaire blessing a project, the nod of a man who knows he almost died and finally decided to be useful. So where does that leave us? Here with me talking to you, like we're at the same kitchen table and you deciding what kind of world you want to live in. Because this story isn't just about one boardroom, or one bad CFO, or one woman with a mop who refused to stand down. It's about what we reward and what we punish. We talk about optics like it's a value, not a filter. We talk about qualifications like empathy isn't one. We act like a sealed, juvenile mistake matters more than the courage it takes to put your mouth on a stranger's and push air into a life that is leaving. If you were in that room, would you have pushed past a velvet rope and done compressions while men in suits told you to stop? If your company fired you for saving a life, would you keep your head down or say, "Going to talk about this out loud"? Do you think what happened to me was fair, or do you think optics has become a shield people hide behind to keep power comfortable? And the big one, when someone with a messy past tries to build something better, do we let the past erase the work? Or do we let redemption be real? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. If this hit a nerve, hit like so the algorithm doesn't bury a story that's uncomfortable. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that a title doesn't measure a heartbeat. And if you've got a story like mine, where you did the right thing and paid for it, I want to hear it. Yeah, I kissed a billionaire to save his life. But the real scandal wasn't my lips on his. It was a room full of power deciding a woman like me didn't belong until the cameras turned on. Your turn. What would you have done?